Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Paphos project. It's time to start bringing the electrics in the house up to date in code. In this video, I'll be running all new channeling throughout the house and installing a whole new set of electrical wiring. Initially, the plan was to hire an electrician to do this work, but it turned out a friend who's qualified had some time to help me out, and we decided to just do it ourselves. In preparation, we chased down every cable run and circuit leading to this ancient breaker box. Yes, that is a Bakelite box. We then designed this gorgeous and highly detailed electrical diagram to make sure there would be enough power sockets for each room and Ethernet to the study and the back of the TV. As the house is built with bricks, concrete and rebar, this meant that we had to cut all new channels into the wall using a combination of this channeling tool, which is essentially two diamond cutting discs linked in one machine, angle grinders, and a power hammer with chisels. As you'll see, it was hard, dusty, and at times painful work, but it'll be well worth the effort once it's done. Before we made our cuts, we measured out where the TV and sockets needed to be, and I was given my first ever lesson in how to run a channel for the wiring. Once cut, we used hammers and chisels to chip out to the required depth for the conduit. For those eagle-eyed DIYers or professionals, you might already have spotted where we're going wrong with this tool. I'll let you guess for now, but I'll reveal the mistake later on in the video. Please don't be too harsh on my lines. It's my first time using this and I struggle to maintain a straight line, but I do get better as we go on. For any of you worrying about cutting into existing lines as I do this, all of the old wiring actually runs directly down from each of the sockets into the floor, so cutting horizontally should be perfectly safe. As you can see, even with the vac attached, there's an extraordinary amount of dust being created, so we tried to keep things as clean as we could with lots of sweeping up as we worked. In the background, you can see me getting a channel ready for the new AC units that I've had installed, so that I can hide the power cable and lead it directly to a wall-based switch. Running a new channel above the lounge entrance was probably the most challenging part of this entire process. In the previous video of me knocking down the kitchen wall, I realized that rather than bricks, these lintels are actually concrete and rebar. That means cutting through extremely tough material. It also has to be the widest and deepest channel in the entire house, because it has to hold 5 wires, 4 standard voltage for sockets, and 1 high voltage power line for the oven. Moving on to the bedroom, I'm knocking through to the lobby to join this room onto the main power ring. Then it's back to marking out the channels and cutting them. One thing we realized as we were doing all of this cutting was that none of the original sockets were the same height. The lounge had them at 50 centimeters, the lobby at 55, and others ranging all the way to 60 centimeters off the ground. So all these had to be made as level as we could to keep them at the same height. The particulate coming off the walls was crazy. The vac was really struggling to keep up as we worked. Unfortunately, I already had the AC units installed because I got a great deal on them earlier in the summer, so we had to work around the installation to find the best way to hide the power leads. While we could have taken them off the wall, it didn't really seem worth it once we had a plan in place. With that done, it's time to punch through to the second bedroom, which is going to be my study. As you can see, I had to go through the built-in wardrobe to connect to the AC for power. This is the last of the channeling runs for the study to connect everything. Moving on to the bathroom, we need power for the backlit mirror, which means measuring up the placement and then digging out the old steel pipe to prep for the new connection. For the final run, we need to create a channel from the lounge through the wall into the kitchen. This will power the oven, oven hood, sockets, dishwasher, and washing machine. That means running both a heavy load and lighter load cable, as the oven needs to be on a dedicated wire. Here you can really see what we're dealing with. The short clip was a solid hour's work, chipping the concrete away, exposing the rebar, cutting through it, and then opening up the channel for the conduit. So the tiles I was hoping to save ended up having to go as well. I'm actually happy to have an excuse to remove these, as I wasn't in love with them and they didn't really fit with the plan that I have for the final look. As you can see, the old plastic conduit behind the wall was cracked and not in a great shape, so once again this turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as it could have really become an issue later after I put the new countertop and tiles in the kitchen. It's a little hard to see here, but the wiring behind these sockets was interesting to say the least. It took a bit of figuring out what went where and why it went there. Suffice to say, the new wiring will be a lot less of a rat's nest once it's done.
Well, here we go. The channeling is done. We used our cool channeling tool, which is essentially two cutting blades stacked on top of each other that you run along the wall. The eagle-eyed among you might have noticed we were using it wrong. In our defense, it looked pretty self-explanatory that, the tube comes out the back of the exhaust to suck up some of the dust. So we assumed you would go forward because there's an indicator at the front. However, on closer inspection of the actual instruction manual, it became clear that we should have been pulling it along, which explains why it kept cutting out. So we live, we learn. We have also been checking with this sample of conduit, 32mm conduit, that our electrician supplied, that we are cutting it the right size and big enough to run multiple wires where we need to. We're using 25mm conduit, I believe, for the single wire runs. We've got the world of stuff that we've bought. So we have 2.5mm 3-core flex wiring for sockets and the like. We've also got some 4mm 3-core flex for the oven and the heavier load stuff. 23 double sockets, 3 Ethernet sockets, AC switches, fused oven switch, all the backing. We've even bought lubricant to help the wire come through the conduit, and a wire puller pusher tool thing. So we've got everything we need, got all the tools, just need to crack on now. So that's the job for the next day or two, before the electrician comes hopefully next week and puts the new breaker box in, and then the house should be fully electric and up to spec. So we're gonna get on, see you in the next update.
Another fun obstacle was the fact that the wires were not only in metal pipes in order to run them, but they were secured to the back boxes in such a way that we had to cut the tops off each of the pipes, whilst again making sure not to catch the original wiring in order to be able to remove them without taking out massive sections of brickwork. As we were reusing a small portion of the old wiring, mainly the ring circuit that runs under the floor tiles, I had to secure the connections so that we had power for the tools. This gave me a chance to use the Wago connectors for the first time. Compared to twisting and crimping wires and putting electrical tape on them, these things are awesome. Snip the end, strip the sheath away, and clip them in place for a secure connection that you can easily take on and off. The next step was to place all the back boxes for the sockets and AC switches. These needed to be in place for us to properly gauge the wiring run lengths. Making sure that these ended up as level as possible was another new skill I had to get my head around. It sounds simple enough when you say it, but in practice it proved to be a bit more of a challenge. Lots of measurements and checks with the level, and I got there in the end. With 23 of these back boxes to put in, I won't bore you by showing each and every one of them, but this particular one took a bit of skill. The existing switches here were for the immersion heater on the roof and a light switch. With the new water system having a pump, we had to increase the space for a triple backplate while retaining the existing wiring connected to the ring circuit. This meant cutting out the original back box while being careful once again not to snip the original wires and securing the new back box. The challenge with this was the wall's only one set of bricks thick and the shower's going to be on the opposite side, so we had to take extra care to make sure everything was safe and secured. Next, we decided it would be better to have a dedicated channel for the HDMI and any other connections to the back of the TV hidden in the wall. So it's another quick channel in the wall and some concrete backing to create a smooth surface for the wiring to go through once it's ready. These junction boxes are going to let us splice the old ring circuit back together where I had to take out the wall in the kitchen and the two sockets that were on either side of it. We're using another one of these connections through the wall to the main breaker where the new wires are being run from the kitchen and the TV. Time to start laying the wiring into place. We've measured out how much each connection needs and embedded the first lot of conduit. Using the wiring puller, that yellow cable you can see, we attach the wire and pull it through each section to the sockets. On the advice of my electrician, we also bought this great 3M wiring lube stuff, which lets the wire travel more easily through the conduit. Gotta say, I never thought that lube would be a part of this build. This is definitely the biggest hurdle of the wiring too. We had to get an Ethernet cable, two 2.5mm and a 4mm wire through one 7-meter long piece of conduit. Even a P. Diddy level of lubrication required some serious effort, but we persevered and got there in the end. With that done, it's the TV area and the kitchen connection is secure. We had to run 2 of the wires to the kitchen while diverting one to the TV area via the T-junction you can see at the top right of the picture. This is the final run, the bedroom and study AC unit power line. More lube, more pulling, some sweating, and a little swearing. It's been a long day and we're both pretty over it at this point. You can see it's dark outside and well past beer o'clock. Another case of just sucking it up and getting the job done until it's finished though. The next day I finished off securing the last of the conduit with the wires already inside and got ready to cement all the exposed conduit into place.
Hi everyone, and welcome back. It's been a busy couple weeks. We have been working our butts off inside trying to get the electrics done. So the old electrics that were in here were, they were old. They were perfectly fine for the house as it was, but there was like one socket in each room. It was a random dedicated 4.5mm power line wire going in the oven, which sort of just ran up along the wall and through a hole into the kitchen to the oven. The layout was a bit weird. It was like a ring with a couple of weird spurs coming off that didn't really make sense. So what we had to do was go through and chase all of the wiring, making sure that we knew what was going where, what wiring was good, what needed to be replaced, where we wanted to put new sockets, and in order to get the sockets there, what needed new channels. Now, if you live, for example, in the US, from what I understand, the predominant
designed for houses is wood and drywall. So running a new channel through that, I imagine, would be relatively straightforward. Here, on the other hand, it's predominantly brick and hard concrete with rebar. What that means is that whenever you're running a new channel, first we have to cut through the brick or worst case rebar, and then we have to dig it deep enough to get the 32 mil conduit into that. Now, we've been doing that with a power hammer and chiseling tools. We've actually snapped 2 of the chiseling tools in this process. That's because when you're going into that rebar, it's incredibly tough, and you're having to put a lot of force on the hammer in order to get deep enough. Now, we have managed to get it done. It's taken us a couple weeks, pretty sore and achy, but we got there in the end. So now we've laid all the conduit, and we have run the wiring through that. We've gotten all the correct wiring for sockets and a dedicated line for the study, which is where all my IT equipment is going to be, as well as another dedicated line for the oven to ensure that we don't overload anything. We've also now gone from what I think was about 9 sockets throughout the whole house to 23 double sockets. We've also run Ethernet. So I've got a fixed line going from the router to the TV area, and also another one to the study where the IT equipment is going to be again. So the plan now is to get everything laid in fully and get it all covered up with this mortar fix. Stuff's really cool. It's basically a combination of cement and fibers. Makes it really tough, but also, from what I understand, a little bit flexible so that it's got a little bit of give. So that's the plan for today. I need to crack on. I want to get this all smashed out today so that hopefully next week we can get the electrician in to get the new breaker box in. I will put up a photo of the old Bakelite breaker box just for everyone's entertainment right now. It was, it was a thing. Granted, it was from the 1970s, so fine. Right, I'm going to get on. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you soon. really wanted to have the electrics and everything completely finished before I created this video, but frankly it's been too long between uploads and the last few bits are going to be delayed for a little while as I need the electrician to come over and validate all the work and the wiring that we've done to make sure it's proper and safe and up to code. Once that's done and the breakers are in place, we'll wire up the sockets, put the AC switches into place and get everything finalized. Thanks, as always, for watching the progress. We go from electricity to water in the next video, as we're going to be replumbing the whole house with new pipes and replacing some of the nastiest pipes that you have ever seen.